Will you tell us when we're on? Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. And this is the second of our roundtables. And I'm delighted that we're talking about the Green Agenda. This is the Green Agenda for Kingston. And I'm sure our experts here will talk about the Green Agenda on a kind of a national perspective as well, because the two go hand in hand. There's going to be, we've got some questions together. Michelle is going to be our fabulous host for this. There is the chat feature, and if there's questions which you've got, please put them into the chat. Michelle, conversations, if they kind of fit into where it's going. But I just want everybody to enjoy this. What I've said to the guests is that I want people to look at this and understand what goes on. And there's a lot of noise and sort of what is the Green Agenda. I think we're all going to get something out of this and just understand these different perspectives. So thank you. I'll hand you over to Michelle, and I hope you enjoyed it all. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome again to the Green Agenda Roundtable. This is the second roundtable today for the Chessington Expo 2020. My name is Michelle Peters, and I am the founder and run Paragon, the Green Cleaning Company. We are local and support local businesses and homes with eco-responsible cleaning services. Following on from me then, I would like to thank you all for joining us today and give our panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves with a snippet of what they do. So I'd like to, Hilary, are you there?
Hello, yes, I am here. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Hi, Hilary.
I'd just like to introduce myself as requested. My name is Hilary Gander. I'm a councillor in Kingston Council. I'm portfolio holder for environment and sustainable transport. I've been campaigning about climate change since the year 2000, and I've made the decision to stand as a councillor in 2014, precisely because I wanted to be able to carry on raising the agenda of climate change within the local community and helping us move to a zero carbon future. Since transport accounts for around a quarter of global CO2 emissions, I've been focusing a lot on cycle lanes and electric vehicle charging points and things like that, but there are many, many other aspects to what we need to do as a council and as a community. And I'm just about to start co-chairing the Green Economy Workstream for the Council's Economic Recovery Task Force, which I'm looking forward to. Thank you.
Lovely, Hilary, thank you. Janine?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm Janine Martin. I'm founder and volunteer at Sunray Recycle, and we are based on Nullmead allotments in Tolworth. And we encourage our community to recycle as much as they can. We collect around 25 different plastic items that would normally go to the landfill incineration bin. And most of these items are sent to a company called TerraCycle. They generally shred and turn these into pellets, which are then sold and melted back into make garden furniture, planks and boards. I started Sunray Recycle to reduce landfill and to earn pennies for our local community. Thank you.
Fantastic, Janine, thank you. Kirsten, hi.
Hi, thank you, Michelle, and hi, everybody. My name's Kirsten Henley. I'm Chief Executive of Kingston First. Kingston First is an organisation which works with and for businesses and organisations operating in Kingston Town Centre. So we work with around about 750 organisations within the centre of Kingston. We deliver projects and services which support them and support the town centre as a prosperous, a thriving and engaging town centre environment.
Super, lovely, Kirsten, thank you. Elliot, hi.
Hello everybody, and thank you for inviting me to join this lovely panel today. So my name is Elliot Newton. I'm the Biodiversity Officer for Kingston Council, and what that is with a real focus on local natural heritage and how we can make Kingston a leading borough for how we look after our green infrastructure and the wild spaces, the green spaces that we have to offer. I'm a Kingston resident. I've been born and bred in Kingston, and prior to joining the council, I set up a small organisation called Citizen Zoo, which is all about community empowerment, which is all about trying to get people out and about in our green spaces and empowering them to deliver some really great conservation targets and do involve really pioneering conservation work. And yeah, thank you.
Oh, fantastic, Elliot. Thank you. And hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to watch your video film before this. But if not, I do recommend you do watch it. And lovely Alison, hi.
Hi, thank you. So yeah, just to say a little bit about me. I'm Alison Weibrow, and I'm a bit different to everyone else. I think, well, we're all really different, but I'm a psychologist and a coach, and I'm a Transition Town Kingston member, where I first met Hilary and also met Elliot through that as well. And I'm co-founder of the Climate Coaching Alliance, which is a global community of coaching professionals who are really learning how to work with our climate and ecological crisis and to support businesses through that too. And I guess the thing I come with is that everyone's holding a piece of the puzzle, their own piece of the puzzle, in terms of what they can bring to create a regenerative and really sustainable way of living and working. And so I'm curious about what the piece is that you're holding, and if you knew you could make a difference, what would you do? I guess the sense I get is that if you want to spend some time working out what your piece of the puzzle is, what your thing to do is, then all it takes is a conversation. That's the starting point, and then other things come into view. So so that's me, and that's what I'm about.
Lovely, Alison, thank you. Yeah, I love which piece of the puzzle are you holding? I love that, and I think that's a really great thing to think about. Wonderful, thank you everyone. So our theme for today is we all need to take serious steps to improve our practical contributions to the green agenda. How can we properly engage with this? And will the economic stresses caused by COVID-19 limit this? And has the current situation highlighted even more that we need to do more than ever before? So, a big subject. So we have a couple of questions, and we've got questions that we've put together. And our first question is, why should the green agenda mean so much to Kingston? And if it's okay, I'd like to go to Hilary first.
Thank you. I think that there are two things to this. Why should the green agenda mean so much to Kingston anyway? And also, why should it mean so much now? I think we'll come onto that in the later questions as well. But I very much believe, pretty much as Alison was saying earlier, that we all have our contribution to make. So Kingston has to make its contribution to reducing carbon. And also, because of COVID and the economic fallout that we're in, with lots of jobs, failed businesses, etc., we need to help to create lots of new opportunities for people. So this is an extra reason why it means so much. So that's where I'd start.
Thank you, Hilary. Would anybody else like to have their thoughts on this?
I'm happy to jump in as well.
Thank you, lovely Kirsten. Thank
Michelle,
you.
And it kind of builds on Hilary's point. In many respects, I've got kind of two angles on this as well. It should mean a lot to Kingston because it means a lot to the world, and we absolutely have to think about the contribution that we make in our individual lives, as a place, as a country, and in the important it is that change happens for future generations. But even if we put that to one side, and if we're not you know, for somebody that doesn't care about the world, for example, I think the green agenda can absolutely matter on a day-to-day practice basis as well. And the green agenda, if we think about how we change our habits, how we live our lives, the consequences of what we do in them can have a practical day-to-day impact on having a nicer place to live, having great businesses that care about their local communities, having more, you know, pleasant places to be around. So it's that twofold piece. It matters because it matters to the world and future generations, but it matters because it can have a fantastic and important impact on our daily lives too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Kingston's a great place and we've got so much history. So, yeah, definitely. Janine?
Yeah, I think it's important because we're actually on the River Thames, and because we've got so many of those rivers that are feeding into it. So thinking about how the pollution gets into those rivers and then goes out into the sea and further away. And I also believe that we've got a whole host of businesses and communities that we can show the rest of the country how we can do this. We might not do it right and we'll do things wrong, but hopefully we can show other communities that we can do this and it can be done on a small scale, which then turns out to be bigger and bigger for the whole world.
Yeah, here. I hear that absolutely. And we've got one thing that I looked at when doing this was actually there is so much going on that we don't know. I didn't know. So this is, you know, really wonderful to have this opportunity to share. Alison, did you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to, there's lovely themes coming through that it's important to everybody. It's not just important to Kingston, but it should be important to us too. And also, I think there's something around, there's a lot of work being done now globally on the importance of cities. So cities, if you're changing where you live, then you tend to have more skin in the game and there's more, you can see the impact of it differently. And so city level or community level shift is something that's actually really, instead of looking at countries or the world as a whole, it's much easier to think, okay, so what can I do? What's here where I live? What are the opportunities? And there are huge opportunities. And also there's a huge impact that we can have because actually, despite the economic hardship we're feeling, we're really quite privileged. And I know that's really hard sometimes for people to hear, but what we do makes a difference because we massively consume a different share of the earth to other people on the planet. And so if we start to shift and build a viable local economy where people can thrive and business can thrive within our natural habitat, then that's really going to make a difference, not only for us, but also for other people looking on.
Mm-hmm. And education is just so key here, isn't it? Education from birth is really key, and getting this message into our nurseries and our primary schools, and letting the children that are not even been born yet, and the children coming through, learn everything that we're starting now, so they can like take it forward. Elliot, I know you're bursting.
I think everybody's made the point so well and so clear already, but I think the climate emergency, the ecological collapse that is currently taking place across the globe is the biggest challenge that the human race has and will ever face. So it matters to everybody at a local level and a national level, and trying to raise awareness, as you say, of that is fundamentally important. I'm a big believer in sort of grassroots solutions to global problems, and the power of communities when they're inspired and you know, when they understand the challenges that are ahead, but also the opportunities that exist to try and combat those challenges. I think one thing I always like to say is like there could be no more important job on the planet than trying to save the planet itself, and giving people the opportunity to be part of that amazing story, and really, you know, preserve the planet for future generations. There's a more important narrative to be global. And it's great that we are seeing, as you say, in terms of education, we are seeing the media start to maybe get hold of it more so in recent years. Obviously, COVID has been a big impact on that, but with recent David Attenborough documentaries and the Royals getting involved, I think there is more public and media impetus than there has been. Well, I've been involved in conservation for about 10 years, and to my knowledge, it is the biggest platform it's been managed to get, which is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with COVID, we I don't know about you guys, but we spent a lot more time outside. I do work with Wildlife Aid Foundation, and it was just amazing the impact of us not being out there more time. We reduced that massively to an hour a day, and nature has just flourished. And I hear what you say, Elliot, and it's about you're saying like looking after the planet, but like the planet, we need the planet. We need nature. Nature doesn't need us. I think, and it's really worth remembering that, isn't it? Okay, shall we move on to our next question? They probably all blend in a little bit, but how practical is it to practice the green agenda when the economy and business finances are so stretched? So we're all struggling a bit with stretching the finances. So how practical is it? Open floor. Janine, you're on mute.
It can actually save you money by what you look at and how you actually look at what your if you think about what I do, if you look at the waste that you're actually looking at in your bin. A lot of people have actually come to me and sort of said that they change what they're buying because of the amount of plastic that they've actually seen and they've brought to us here, and it's really good for them in a couple of the next couple of times that they've actually visited to actually say, I've changed so many different ways of shopping, buying things, looking at those products around you to kind of choose for better options, kind of thing, and just adapting to selecting different products.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can I chip in at this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was very, very well put there from Janine, and I wanted to also say about economically. There are wins for individuals, there are wins for councils or corporations in some of the stuff that we need to do for the environment. So a big example for me would be energy costs. So that affects us, on an individual level right the way through, through to nations, how much we spend on our energy. So this sort of work that we can really get going on, and I'm kind of showing some frustration here because we should have been doing this for so long. I think we've now got the platform to do it, and there's a big focus on it, so I welcome that. I think when you say how practical is it to do it, I don't think we've got any choice. That this was a crisis before all other crises. It's been going, we've been on this decline ecologically and environmentally in general for such a long time. We've got to say enough is enough, and now is the time to do this, and we can't make any more excuses. The other crises are really real, and really, the COVID crisis affecting people very personally, and it's very upsetting to people, and we need to be doing this as well. So yeah, that I think we've got a moral imperative to do it, and to do it now.
And also I think people maybe not in business but just who live locally actually want to do it, but they need some guidance as to what can I do. It's just they think they know what they're doing. But I learned something the other day which is about bottle tops. If you leave the bottle tops on top of the glass bottles or the plastic bottles, they can't get separated. So it's just the small little things, which is a practical thing, which just means when you put it in your recycling bin, put the bottle top in there separate from the plastic bottle. And if I knew that before, I'd be doing it for years. I've only been doing it for about 5 days. But yeah, I think it is practical, very much so. Yeah, Kirsten, would you like to comment on that too?
I think I'd say that the practicality is actually in many cases intrinsically linked with finances. There's a kind of we can't afford not to, and I think there's an expectation now by customers and consumers and clients of businesses that they're at the very least thinking about what is their contribution and what are they doing from whether it's green and more sustainable supply chains, whether it's, as we've talked about, packaging, whether it's just internally how you organise, sort of staffing arrangements and how you run your office, etc. I think there's an expectation from customers about this. I think that's where customers have got quite a lot of influence now more than ever, and they have, through that expectation, shifted and encouraged huge organisations to considerably change how they approach this agenda. And I think that's absolutely testament to the awareness that's starting to come through. As Elliot said, people are more aware than ever before about the future of this planet and the perilous situation we find ourselves in. But it is also about customers being much clearer about what they expect from businesses. Businesses are needing to respond, and the good ones are. And we expect those to get rewarded through that sustainability and through that customer patronage.
And shouting about it and saying whoop whoop, because we are doing this and we're proud of it and we want to be doing it. And when people hear that message, it's inspiring and it's contagious, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I just add as well that it does take time for businesses to understand exactly what kind of difference they can make and what the changes are that they can do that can help. So a little bit like your example, Michelle, there about the sort of practical things that you're picking up. It's very much the same for businesses too. But I think that's weaving its way. Yes, through best practice, but also, as I say, through customers and clients expecting more and helping businesses understand what their expectations of business, of the corporate world are.
Thank you, Kirsten. Lovely.
Can I just jump in very quickly as well?
Yes, Elliot, lovely. Yeah.
By no means I'm no economist, so I feel quite not in a fantastic place to comment on economics and finances, but I think Hilary makes a very good point, and we can't afford not to. I think there's a clear justification when you look towards the costs between a proactive approach to a reactive approach, and it's always going to be a lot more expensive to try and react to these situations rather than trying to get in early. And early is, I know we're late already, but the earlier we act, the cheaper it's going to be. It's only going to get more and more expensive as we try and deal with these sort of situations. So that is a really important thing, and something that I'm bringing the nature angle into it a little bit. I'm a fundamental believer in what we call ecosystem services, and UK government has recently bought into something called the natural capital approach, and this is where we're sort of looking into if we have healthy environments and landscapes around Kingston, these will provide public services and public benefits. So these green spaces will, if they're healthy and have support good ecosystems that are functional, they'll help to sequester carbon, they'll help to provide green air, they'll help to create a more aesthetic, nicer place to live, for more people to get outside to want to enjoy it. They'll help to reduce flood risk. So by investing in sort of green technologies and green sort of infrastructure, that'll help to future-proof the borough to the challenges ahead. And sometimes it's difficult to equate these ecosystem services to real financial value. Like what is the value of quality air? What's the value of good quality water? What is the value of reducing the impact of flooding on our homes? But it's just trying to make that sort of more holistic approach when you're thinking about the wider context and the finances. I think is really important.
Thank you, Elliot. Yeah, absolutely. Alison.
Thank you. Not much to add. I guess a question I would ask is it practical? Then I guess, is it practical to value the life itself, really? Because the green agenda is about a life-giving future. And so if we want air to breathe, that's clear and food to eat that's nourishing, then the green agenda is your agenda, and it's very practical, and we need to bring it that practically into focus. I think the other thing on the economics front, I'm not an economist either, but I've been learning a lot about the economy and how it's set up. One of the things I understand from Andrew Connolly, who set up Kingston Pound, is and people he connects me with, is that actually, although you might not immediately see the fiscal impact of a shift in your own budget bottom line, if you actually bring and strengthen the local economy, make local choices and strengthen what's happening locally, then it actually benefits everybody. And I think there's that sense of one of the things we've forgotten is actually we're so deeply interconnected in our local community. And yet we think we're in competition with each other, and yet we're deeply connected. So what one person does that's really positive, it impacts and benefits everybody else. And that's something that would be really good to kind of support to help Kingston flourish. So in some ways, it's a real mindset shift we need to make as much as practical steps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think achievable. I think very much achievable with just, you know, passing and sharing the word and you know, going out there and talking about why this is important, because this is what happens when that happens, and when you bring in nature and you bring in projects and you bring in people to learn about it, it then becomes very practical because it's bringing people involved, and the community, I think, want to have that. And for those who perhaps don't, they will then perhaps change their mindset because they're more aware. Lovely, thank you. Does anybody have anything else they want to say on that before we go on to our next question? You're all cool? Okay. Okay, so question 3. Will the green agenda be sidelined by the longer term coronavirus recovery? Which sort of leads on nicely from number 2, quite similarly. Will it be sidelined by the longer term coronavirus recovery? I don't think it should be. I don't think it's necessary. I think the mindset means that it shouldn't be sidelined at all. And actually, it's even more, let's go for this. Alison?
I think the question is, can we afford to let it be sidelined? Because the coronavirus is connected to the bigger issues around climate change and biodiversity collapse. And so if we don't keep those bigger systems in mind, and we respond without thinking about those, then it could be sidelined. But it's up to us to decide whether we want to let that happen or not. And if we do, then the impact will be a lot worse than what was experienced in COVID-19.
Yeah, absolutely. Hilary?
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar. I think we can't let it be sidelined. I'm actually an optimist. I don't think it will be sidelined, but I think we do need to keep banging the drum. You know, so it's incumbent on us all to make sure it isn't sidelined. I think as a council, I think it's important that we step up. So we have an economic recovery task force. I haven't quite got used to the names yet. Economic Recovery Task Force, and I'm just about to start co-chairing the Green Economy work stream for that. So it's seen as one of 4 main priorities within the Economic Recovery Task Force that we have a green economy. So I'm really pleased that as a council we've recognised that this piece really has to be in place, and that we'll be working with external stakeholders, you know, and experts in order to work together as a whole borough, as a whole community towards that. So it's not necessarily council led, although we're making the ground available, you know, preparing the ground, if you like. So yeah, I don't think it will be sidelined, but I think we have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of to lead on from Hilary's point, especially from my role as a biodiversity officer in the council. This is a new position to the council, and very much targeted on trying to improve, make Kingston a leading borough for how we manage our natural heritage and our wider environment. And we're very much making progress and plans, which we'll hopefully see develop in the very near future to put these into action. And at least these are happening now. So, so hopefully we can do some really fantastic things and use this sort of various sort of, I feel a bit awkward calling them silver linings, but I think we've already addressed it. A lot of people are now, we've got closer communities, people are more aware of our local environment. These are real opportunities that we can use to try and encourage more people to engage with nature and locally and make sort of catalyse from that response that we've seen over lockdown, and use it as a sort of a pause to try and see a reset button to some extent as to how we can take the moment and build a better economy around that.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, that's just fantastic that that's being thought about, and we can all like engage with that. Elliot, nature is the key. Absolutely. Anybody else like to add in?
Just to kind of I guess pick up on an observation that we're experiencing now in terms of how we're recovering, or at least shifting our patterns of behaviour now. We're seeing this in Kingston town centre as a outer London town centre, and this concept of people wanting to support and shop and use their local centres in a way that we just haven't seen before. So this concept of the sort of 15-minute city, which the Mayor of Paris has really brought to the fore, where the sort of idea is that you can live, work and play within a 15-minute commute from your home. I think that's absolutely fascinating, and we're seeing that play out now, unfortunately to the detriment of some of our city locations, but absolutely the advantage of not just town centres like Kingston, but sort of smaller village centres as well, where people are really starting to think about what can they do within walking distance or cycling distance or short commuting distance. What are they buying? Where are they buying it from? How am I spending my time and money? So I think there's something around that's worth absolutely trying to hang on to, and then thinking about how we shape our places to support that. My personal view is a lot of the issues that have cropped up, strategic societal issues that have cropped up and come to the fore through COVID, are absolutely ones that we were all talking about prior to COVID anyway. So the internet and digital and the challenges around that, health and health inequalities, absolutely we were talking about that before COVID. Communities and how communities play a role in places. Development, what does sustainable development mean? Are we building too much? Are we using up too much? All of these things were absolutely things that were on our agenda, I think, as a society before COVID. But what COVID has done is platform that and really asked us to think very carefully and considerately about what is it that's important to us, and how do we shift, how do we adapt, what bits do we want and what bits don't we want. And the bits that we might want is thinking about that 15-minute town or city concept and how we build on that going forward.
So really sort of, although obviously COVID has come along, but it's actually sort of brought all this out into the open now, isn't it? And made us, right, actually, hold on a minute, nature closed us down. So now we need to look at it all. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Does anybody else want to add anything before we go on to the next question? Okay, next question, number 4. How can green marketing become more mainstream and the norm, and not a nice add-on? So for a long time it was a bit of an add-on, but now we need it to be the norm. Any takers?
Can I get a little bit confused sometimes because I feel that some companies, usually multinationals, are doing the greenwashing type thing. So I do get very despondent and a little bit discouraged about certain things that companies say and do. and what they're putting their money into or what they're putting their name to. And obviously, as I said earlier, I get a lot of people sort of saying to me, where does this go? What does that happens with this? And you have to kind of think and give them the response that I assume these things are recycled this way and things are recycled another way, but without actually really knowing for sure where these things go. It is a difficult one to answer when people are coming to you and sort of saying these things. So speaking to this about my husband the other day when we had the questions, and we were looking at sort of like what was the word for it? Actually giving evidence based of what they're doing and how they're doing it, and getting that feedback and knowing and seeing it happening, kind of thing. Sorry, that was a bit confused.
No, but very important. We need to know the journey that we're saying this is what needs to happen, and then we need to know the journey of what's happening. Is it happening, and the cycle of that? And then we feel confident, and then we know what we're doing is making a difference. Absolutely.
Just going, can I add to that?
Yes, absolutely, Alison. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to add, but I'm just going to say, actually, Janine, you're in a brilliant position because you're at the end of the food chain in terms of this. So you see waste and where it goes and how it's recycled and what happens to it. And so you can see when someone's doing a lovely job of green marketing, or if it's greenwashing, the impact of that, because it shows up in what people bring to you. And so I think there's that difference between greenwashing and green marketing, isn't there? And it's often from a business perspective, people put the sustainability agenda in the corporate social responsibility part, instead of putting it actually right at the heart of every decision that they make and really part of their core purpose. So I think it's shifting it. It's not a nice add-on. And that's, everyone can make that shift by bringing it in as a core element of how they make their decisions. I know that, Hilary and Elliot have been working on that within the council, but how do you bring it from the outside right to the heart? And one of the things I'm just noticing actually is the chat. There's so many people in the chat who are going, I've got a bit of the puzzle here, I've been catalysing this, and there's so much actually knowledge that once people know what to do, then they will step up and step into it. So it's bringing it into the heart and centre of business, but it's also, how do we learn to trust and understand what the key things are we can do collectively, and then just get on and do them. So something about really clarifying what it is that we can do to make the biggest difference.
Yeah.
I suppose I haven't really got a point on the marketing strictly because I'm not really involved in that sort of world. But what I really think everybody can do, and one thing I always try and do, is try and raise just the local awareness of our general natural heritage. It's been fantastic since joining the council to be able to use the council's communication chains to try and engage people. So, for example, every Wednesday now we have a Wildlife Wednesday, which is a little factoid about local wildlife, and we're now working with the library service to do little mini sort of documentary series about the wildlife and the green spaces that you can find in Kingston. So it might not directly be a sort of a wild marketing exercise, but we're using our communication platforms that we've got available to us to try and raise the awareness of our natural heritage, which I think is a really exciting opportunity. And I suppose that's marketing in a broader sense, where everybody can tell people about if there's some interesting facts they want to tell people, just tell your friends, tell your neighbours, tell your business colleagues about it, and just get the words out there. I think it's a really important thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the green marketing that we need to do, isn't it? It's shout about what we're doing and, hey, look, we're doing this. And on whatever platform you can do, whether you have a business and you're talking about it at the end of your emails that you're sending out, this is what's going on in Kingston this week, Wildlife Wednesday. Hey, I'm going to be there. I didn't know that existed. And just saying, on any platform or any way we communicate with people, this is what our passion is, and this is what we're doing, and for our business and personally. That's a great one, yeah.
Question to Elliot: can that be expanded beyond the walls of the council?
Oh, this is on external channels.
Oh,
so,
brilliant!
Yeah, it's very much an external channel. So this is on the sort of Facebook and Twitter handles that the council have ownership of, and and on the library service too. So every Monday we're doing little things. So so it's just trying to get these little things out to make nature not a thing that you think about every now and again, but make it a more consistent part of our lives, something that we sort of think about on a more daily basis rather than an odd talk here or there or an odd TV show here or there. Make it sort of a consistent thing that we can continually engage with, which then might try and drive our further behaviours to think, oh, this is a very important element of my community, the wider environment, and just getting that sort of thought process a bit more embedded.
Yeah. And, there's nothing like a hedgehog, to pass this information on. Hedgehogs are so important. We don't have enough of them, and we're going to lose them. And if we don't build awareness about them in Kingston, and it links on to litter, because hedgehogs will suffer through litter, and then the litter links onto the recycling and looking after our rubbish, and then plastic. And there's a big sort of link that just continues to go on, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, there's Janine, there's our lovely hedgehog.
Sorry.
I love it. Sorry, my hedgehogs are my things. Oh, that's super. Kirsten, did you want to add to that? I'm not sure if you have already, or
I think it's been covered really well. I think Jenny's made a really interesting point there, but I'd not heard really before about greenwashing, and there's a difference between that and positioning and promoting green credentials around a product or a service. So that's an interesting perspective that I think probably people are going to get more savvy to. Actually, goes back to my point around customers knowing more and interrogating more and expecting more.
Yeah, absolutely. So green marketing is just sort of really top up there, isn't there? Get out there, spread the word, find out about how you can be green, and share that with your employees as well, and get them involved. Just briefly, I don't know if you know, but myself, Janine and Karen did a Tops Off campaign, which was about collecting when reusing bottle tops, trigger sprays, flip tops, because basically we are running out of them. There you go, take your tops off. So a bit of fun, but we have, how many tops have we collected? 2,000?
Yeah, probably about 2,000 now. And that was 14 kilograms of plastic. We've now got in the shed that we need to package up and send off to be cleaned, and then hopefully reused rather than shoved up and going through that process. So it's really good to get on board with different things, of rather than plastics being a single-use plastic. You're actually looking at what it can be used for in a different purpose, working with crafters and various companies to kind of reuse those products, rather than going through a process of being recycled and using up all the carbons or fuel that needs to be used to recycle those products. So it's just great thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you guys, may not know is that, companies want to buy these back. They're highly engineered, and due to COVID, we cannot get them over because they come from Italy or China. And, these companies that use these want to buy them back. And that's something that, what's your piece of the puzzle? What are you doing? And it's like, well, we're doing this, and it's just a small thing, but we are making a difference. And it's been really great fun anyway. Okay, so I know we're running out of time. So question 5, if everyone's happy. Handled well, could sustainability ease the effects of the financial crisis locally?
Shall I kick off?
Yeah.
I think it comes back to the opportunity to create new jobs in sustainable businesses, that I really hope we can make the ground ready for, if you like. I think I mentioned earlier energy savings. If you reuse, repair, that can also help to save money for individual households. when I was thinking about this, I was thinking there's also the bigger picture, isn't there, which we do touch on, of the more we can encourage people to walk and cycle and be healthy and be outdoors, it has health impacts. We know that very much so, and we've seen some of those benefits even in the crisis, in the COVID crisis. But also, if we can improve our air quality by walking and cycling rather than driving, again, that has health impacts, positive ones. And there's the ultimate easing of pressure on our NHS, which I'm sure we would see benefits from locally as well as nationally. So I think so much of this is just good old-fashioned common sense. That these are things that we need to do because they benefit us, and even financially too.
Yeah.
I suppose a slightly of a sort of take on it is also how we can model sort of the investments and the sort of businesses looking forward. So I think the green economy is going to represent a fantastic amount of opportunity for entrepreneurship and innovation, and just trying to work out how we're going to try and tackle these crises, and that's going to represent some really significant business opportunities, I'm sure. So it's just thinking about what should we invest in, and what and then that will hopefully future-proof the economy to help actually maximize obviously public good, but also there must be a real sort of investment there which can be more well received, because these innovations and these solutions could have like national, international applications. So I think trying to encourage sort of startups and sort of these innovations, and to encourage that sort of green carbon neutral, environmentally friendly sort of entrepreneurship is something that really should be looked at within the context as well.
And it's, I mean, we have the colleges and we have the universities, amazing in our borough. I don't know this, I don't know if you guys do, but do they have like projects? Do they do sustainability, eco-diversity? Are there courses that these are up and coming students are inspired to do? Does anybody know?
If I can quickly jump in on that, I didn't go to Kingston University, but I know a lot of people who did. I work quite a lot with them at the moment. There are quite a lot of sustainable sort of courses that they run. They actually have the highest amount of startups, I believe, than any other university on the country, which is quite an interesting thing. But yeah, I'm actively, even in my position at the moment, we're actively engaging with their masters in architectural students, just trying to see how they can inbuilt architectural sort of solutions and think about the environment and climate context within that. So we're actually working with their sort of MSc programs and their sustainability programs. So there is lots of opportunity to engage.
Oh, that's great. That's good to hear.
I guess as I'm just sort of looking at the comments coming in and listening to people, I think one of the things that I kind of know but is really evident here is how much is happening and how much could be happening if people just were more aware and shared. So there's something about really bouncing off and leapfrogging and learning from each other, which is just coming from us being together on this conversation today. And so that would further augment the big yes to actually can it make a difference. And I've got some words from one of my colleagues on the Transition Town committee here, and from Des, who many of you will know, Des K. If we're all riding sustainable future bus, then our local actions contribute to global change. So that's from Des. If any of you know him, then you'll understand exactly why that's who he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I'm conscious of the time, so I want to get through these last two questions, actually, because I really love them. Where do you think new green ideas best come from?
I'm happy to kick
yes.
off and say that the best ideas in general come from collaboration. So it follows from my perspective that that green ideas as well will come from collaboration from different sectors, collaboration across technologies, collaboration across life experiences and perspectives in our local communities. And I think if we can find ways to facilitate the most unlikely types of people and sectors and organisations coming together to try and find solutions, or even just trying to define problems that we want to solve. Sometimes that's the first thing. Sometimes we try and solve problems that we can't properly define yet. So in some way that we can get all sorts of different folks together, representing different interests, coming at things from different angles, which is the specialities, I think that's where the best ideas will come from. So for me, it's all about collaboration.
Janine?
It also comes from your passion of what you believe in and what your views are and what you want the future to become, kind of thing. I just noticed that Peter on the chat has said entrepreneurs, so I just thought I'd put that in there just in case it got missed. But it is just coming together, all different communities, all different businesses, just sort of saying how they do things differently and thinking and talking about what you do, and helping each other as well, just to see where things can happen. And then just the experience and knowledge of all of those professionals that have worked over the years as well. Yeah, just talking it out, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just sharing what one business is doing with another, and then that gives somebody else the idea, and then they can support each other, or whatever. It's just getting that conversation going, and then everybody's saying, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
I'm interested in I had entrepreneurs on my list as well, but I'm interested in the step before that, and I think Kirsten touched on it earlier, which is consumers pushing businesses to change. So actually, if you're thinking about what triggers new green ideas, we could even say we all do. We're the ones that push. And the first people that sprang to mind were actually older people and then younger people. You know how enthusiastic young children are about once they get hold of the green agenda, they really go for it, don't they? And they start telling their parents off. And I think a lot of the older people, had habits that we've lost, that were really good habits about how to reduce waste and to reuse. And I've got a particular desire. I've seen that hemp is mentioned in the chat. I think if we can get celebrities more on board, and it does happen a bit, but I've got this vision of David Beckham carrying a tote bag, made of hemp, and just really setting a trend of, because you see a lot of blokes about with still using the plastic bags, and somehow that is now cool, and I want to make that not cool. And to have the reusable bag that you whip out of your pocket to be the thing. So I think celebrities can help us to push the trend more as well to innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There was a fantastic story a few weeks ago in the press. I'm not sure if anybody saw it, around comic relief and red noses, and a school, a sort of primary school, had written into Richard Curtis as the chair of Comic Relief to say, why are red noses not sustainable? Why are they made? Why are they made from plastics that can't be recycled, etc., etc. And it's taken them a couple of years to come up with it, but they have now come up with sustainable red noses, and that was through school and primary kids looking at this kind of very, very bold and well-known charitable sort of statement, if you like, writing in and changing it. And I think, Hilary, your point about young people being able to come up with these ideas, but then also show how they can change things, is a brilliant inspiration for other young people to challenge. So alongside collaboration, I think there is a point around kind of challenge.
Absolutely. So the last question, what does the green agenda mean to yourself personally? How big a deal is it for you?
For me, it means a huge opportunity, and I've shifted every aspect of my life, my kids' lives. They love it, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest, they're so much more aware and conscious than I was growing up, well, potentially. And I've also shifted all the conversations I have with all my clients as well. So it's really shifted everything that I do. But I need to continue to shift. It isn't something that stays still. You're always new things out, new things that you can do, and it takes time. But yeah, it means everything, change everything.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Alison. Janine?
I think the green agenda means to me is just really continuing what my family before me have kind of done, and some of the habits that I've picked up, because at Christmas time I'm still wrapping paper off people and storing it away for another year, and so and I always get
I do. I don't wrap now though.
That was my Auntie Louie, so it just came with me, and that's what I do. But it's also about getting the information and the knowledge from different people, so I can pass that expertise, get the knowledge for myself at first of all, and then being able to pass that information and knowledge on to other people, so that they're then informed about what's going on, and so they can make that decision to sort of change just small bits at a time, and then as they get more confident to then change for bigger things, and then just also working with like-minded people to make this difference, and obviously looking after our planet. Yeah, absolutely. Elliot, we've got a couple of minutes, guys, just to let you know. We don't want to get cut off.
To me, it is, well, there is no more important challenge. There's no bigger challenge than trying to save the planet for the future and future generations, and the life that exists on our planet, which we're so fortunate to, to be part of. So it's fundamentally, there is nothing more important to me personally, and it's just trying to sort of get that message across, I think, and how it can be at all levels. But as Alison says, I think it does represent an incredible opportunity. So what an amazing thing to say back when to your grandchildren that we were part of the sort of the era that helped save the planet and get it on a new course, which there could be no better story than that. No, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Hilary?
Yes, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, aren't you? I very much believe that we're stewards of the planet. We're here for such a short time, aren't we? When you think about the history of the planet, it's up to us to enhance it rather than destroy it. And I really welcome the Green Agenda as a spotlight on what we need to do. And I think I'd like to, be part of being the generator, powered by renewable energy, of course, that keeps that spotlight going on the Green Agenda.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Hilary. Kirsten? Probably haven't got much time, but tell us what it means to you.
So for me, I think it's all about choices. So that's what the Green Agenda means to me. It's a choice to be aware of and understand the trajectory that we're on in terms of the situation that the planet is in and our responsibilities to it. But it's also about choices that we can make in our individual lives to influence either our habits or others. And I think there's something always to be said about recognizing it's the small things actually too that can make a big difference. So choosing to make a small difference is still choosing to be aware of our responsibilities and our contribution to supporting the planet and making a difference over the coming years.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Well, I must say, I think we're going to run out of time, but I'll just say I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. And it's been really lovely to meet you all. And I'm sure we're going to carry on this conversation between us all, for sure. And for me, it's education, and we need to start young, and we need to bring the new lot through, all those lovely children and the ones that haven't even been born yet through, because they're the ones that are going to carry it forward. I'd like to thank everybody for who has joined us today. And of course, a big thank you for everybody here, our panelists, Hilary, Janine, Kirsten, Elliot and Alison, for all your input and enthusiasm. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you.
Okay. So I know we're going to run out in any second.
Thank
So
you,
thank you everybody for listening.
Excellent sharing.
I'm just going to do this and this.
Right.
Is that it? Are we gone?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Lovely to see you all.
How did your thing go last night, Elliot?
Oh, yeah, it was good. Sorry, sorry I haven't responded to you.
No, I'm really sorry. I really wanted to be there, and then I was stuck travelling.
Well, I'll circulate that. I was drafting the notes up this morning, so hopefully I'll send them around this afternoon. But,
Fab.
Yeah. Well, there'll be lots of opportunity to engage. Don't worry at all.
What a brilliant session this was, wasn't it? It's really heartening. There's a lot happening.
Lovely to see it.
See you later.
See you soon. Bye for now.